Load Partner is basically just like a 24/7 AI load coordinator. So the purpose of Load
Hmm.
Partner is to help you manage loads that are on the road. So think of things you would talk to your load coordinator for, or like a night dispatch team would handle. Check
Yeah.
calls, getting ETAs, checking reefer temps. Uh, Basically, Load Partner exists to make those calls, give you updates. It can do SMS, email. It can make phone calls for you. It's just basically meant to be an assistant to help you run loads easier. Um, at the bottom of it, basically, we have built a freight focused like platform. So we have like this set of tools for like live location links, and sending text messages, the typical stuff you would see kind of TMSy. And then we basically applied like AI on top of that so that it can actually use those tools to help you.
Welcome to the ThinkFreight Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Wording, and it's my pleasure to have Garrett Allen, co-founder of LoadPartner. Garrett, thanks for coming on the ThinkFreight Podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Thomas, thanks for having me on.
No, of course, man. I want to jump right into it. You and I have had this plan for like about 10 or 12 days, and I'm really stoked to learn more about LoadPartner. So why don't we dive in first and kind of talk about your background? How did you initially find the freight industry? It's a fun industry. So how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so I think how a lot of people do, I just kind of fell into it. So coming out of college, just ended up taking an IT job at a brokerage. It was kind of a
Oh,
small
nice.
brokerage at the time. So I was like employee like number 50, so pretty early on.
Yeah.
Long story short, I ended up getting to do some engineering projects there, just being kind of, building little things here and there for them. And they were starting to see some real success. And they were actually running like on-premise QuickBooks and using this really old TMS written in Visual Basic. And I pitched this idea like, hey, what if I build a TMS for you guys? Like, if you can provide the right resources, we could build a team and build this out. And long story short, they actually bet on me, let me build a team out. We built the TMS over a couple years. They ended up moving on to it. Got to see all kinds of cool stuff, scaling a brokerage, sort of building a TMS for them.
Right.
I left there after a few years. Actually, more than a few. I spent like 8, 9 years there.
Wow.
Yeah, when I left, they had like over 500 employees. They had just crossed $1 billion annual revenue on the TMS when I left. So it was
Wow.
very cool. And
That's
from there,
awesome.
you know, wanted to work on more like of a freight tech company.
Hmm.
Anybody that's worked in a brokerage understands the balance of sales and tech. So I was really wanting to jump into like really just freight tech. So went and spent a couple years working at a digital brokerage. There worked on data integration stuff around like EDI, a lot of stuff in the accounting system world, and some of their internal like shipper related stuff for the brokerage. And then, yeah, coming after that, basically it was like time to make the leap, and Load Partner was kind of born from that. So
Dude, that's really awesome. So you worked, so basically like most of your career was with that one company, and then you moved on, did a little bit of stuff, kind of like a little bit of everything, it sounds like, for the digital broker, and then you were just like, you know what, it's time to do your own thing. Have you always like, I feel like a lot of people who develop these like engineering skills and like web engineering skills and all these coding skills as well, always like, I guess, always have these ambitions to own your own company or to do your own thing. Has that always been your ambition, or did that just kind of grow through kind of learning the freight industry?
yeah, it's always been one of those things. It's like that bug, it's like the itch you can't quite scratch working in other places.
Yeah.
Like, man, I really wish I was doing my own thing. And, a lot of my career, luckily, was, when I early on, building that TMS with that team, it does a lot of that. It's kind of like building within that company. And there's a
Right.
lot of like autonomy, building a new team, building a product. But, at the end of the day, yeah, it's always like, man, it would be cool to really start something and own it end to end and like, set the vision and build something. So absolutely.
No, I love that, man. How long have you, like, were you always, like you said, you kind of got the first job at a brokerage, on the IT side. So how long before, you ever got into freight? How long have you been like messing and tinkering around with things online?
Just like building stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
since I was really
Small.
young. Early on, I did a lot of stuff with. I think a lot of programmers will relate to this. A lot of stuff with video games. Doing
Yeah.
mods to video games, things in that nature. Building levels, writing scripts, stuff like that. So probably since like early high school ish, I've been kind of like building stuff online. And so naturally coming into my career as an adult, it's like very like same stuff, right? Like a lot of that
Yeah.
same like tinkering with stuff, and yeah.
No, that's cool. So let me ask you this, a little off topic. Do you still like get into gaming and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Hell
I
yeah. What's your
definitely.
favorite game?
Oh, my favorite game. I'm actually a huge Doom fan. So
Oh,
if you're
nice.
familiar with Doom and like the whole id Software, John Carmack and all that, I'm kind of like a super fan of id Software actually.
Yeah.
So you can't see it, but over on that side on my wall, I've got like Doom helmets and collector stuff because I'm like a
Oh,
super
that's
fan.
cool.
So
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah,
No, that's great. And I think that, it's good to have a good balance of like working on things you love and also like having that time to like play games and tinker with things like that. Cause I think it's good to have that, like that really good balance. I think that that's important as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of with starting Load Partner and kind of getting into really business and stuff. It's there's a lot of overlap with. It's funny actually. Just like this last week, I sent a video to my co-founder of indie game developer that had put together this like how to build a perfect game, and I was like, he's talking about video games, but this all applies to business, and these are all great like suggestions and things we
Yeah.
should think about. And there's just it's a lot of overlap there.
No, I love that. Yeah, and like you said, with that business building, there's definitely a lot of that overlap and ways you can, because a lot of how you build a successful business is just having a lot of really good and good advocates in the community that really love what you're doing. And when you show that support and you show that kind of like love back to them in return and give them kind of what they're looking for and what they want, it's a great way to grow a business. I mean, we've seen that a lot. I mean, I'm looking at your Please Advise hat. I have a sticker here. Yeah, I mean, Reed does a great job at like building communities and community building, and that's kind of what stands out, I think, with building businesses when people go above and beyond and they go like, hey, we're going to build not just a product and go sell it to people. We're going to build a huge community around this and make it fun. That's where you can really have a lot of success.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, yeah, Read Please Advise Group, absolutely. Shout out to them. It's, big motivator for us starting Load Partner and, the encouragement we get from that group. And, with Load Partner too, we're trying to like, harness some of that and make it sort of like fun for our users, something that people are
Yeah.
like, hey, this is cool, have the fun like Twitter. It's like, informative but fun. And,
Yeah.
just kind of like lean into that, not being too serious. So.
No, for sure. So let's dive into a little bit more into freight tech and kind of AI and freight before we touch on Load Partner. Where do you kind of see, over the last maybe 2 years, or year and a half, really, we've seen a lot of talk about AI and AI taking freight jobs and jobs in general. Where do you see kind of the landscape of AI in the freight industry, and do you think it is something that brokers need to worry about in terms of it, eliminating some of those jobs?
You know, um, it's a great question. I think like when it comes to brokers and needing to be like afraid that AI is going to take their job, I think that the AI is not going to be great at sales. They're not going to be able to build
Mm,
good relationships with AI. Where AI is going to really come in is, helping you manage like loads that are on the road, doing check calls, helping with communications to make sure that things are a lot more smooth. Um, I don't think AI is going to come in and just take broker jobs overnight, or really that soon. But I will say, over the last couple years, kind of talking about the freight market and just like how it's been kind of brutal, and we've had all
yeah.
these like close downs. I do think that the market's probably going to rebound. I'm not an economist. I don't have a professional opinion, but it's probably going to rebound. But I think a lot of the opinions around, what does your sales team headcount look like after what we've seen the last few years is going to be
Yeah.
different. And I think people are going to be a lot more hesitant to scale those teams up. I think that's where technologies like AI are going to come in
Mm,
and it's going to say, hey, you're a brokerage, you need more people on the phones, checking in on loads, things like that. Instead of hiring more people, they might pull in these technologies to make it so their current employees can do more, basically with less. So, I don't think there's going to be a lot of scenarios where somebody's like going to get actively like lose a job to AI, but I think there's going to be a lot more scenarios where a company isn't going to like hire for new roles because AI is going to solve the problem for them.
yeah, it sounds so kind of like exactly what you're saying. It sounds like AI and freight is not going to really replace the people, but the people need to know how to utilize AI to streamline what they're doing as their employers don't backfill some of these old positions that were lost over the last couple of years of a down market. Is that kind of a quick summary of what you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen a lot of that where, brokerages that kind of adopt the right technologies early on end up being
Mm,
more successful. And I think this is just another one of those scenarios. AI is just the newest wave of tech. It's not, I mean, it's really cool and it can do a lot of great stuff. But, at the end of the day, it's just kind of the next wave of new technology. And so just
yeah.
knowing like where to adopt it and doing it correctly, as all other technology, it'll set you up for the best success.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think that I think that it's definitely going to set you up for the right success if you bring on and utilize the right kind of technologies. And with that being said, there are a lot of players in the space and in freight tech. So we just saw a couple months ago, Convoy went under. They were supposed to be the best in digital brokerage and things like that. So how do you think tech like that is going to do you think that closures like that are going to affect kind of the long-term viability of people going into the freight market, especially with some of the, I know you're not like into a lot of VC money and things like that, but where do you, as a small business who may in the future look towards that model, where do you kind of see kind of that play in terms of, how you look towards kind of growth and getting money in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think, talking about like Convoy and especially like, digital brokerages, I think we're going to see more and more merge of sort of the physical traditional brokerage and a digital brokerage. I think we're going to ultimately end up somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
just like long term. I think everybody that's currently like one side or the other, you're going to have to like meet in the middle to ultimately be the most successful. So, looking at that, I think there's still a lot of room for like specifically freight tech companies that are just like doing things like we are at LoadPartner, where
Yeah.
we're adding a plus one to your business. We're not trying to replace
Mm,
brokerages. We're just trying to make your brokerage more efficient. I think there's going to be plenty of room for those kinds of technologies still in companies that want to just, with AI, it's hard for a brokerage today to introduce AI. It's such a fast moving field. There's so much overhead to stay up to date. Every week there's some new breakthrough. That's a lot to keep
yeah.
up with if you're just trying to like move loads. And that's where,
Yeah.
freight tech companies can come in and they can do that for you. They can stay on top of it, make sure the tech is cutting edge, and you can just, get the benefit of their expertise into your own brokerage. So I think there's still plenty of use cases for like a true freight tech company. But as far
Mm.
as like an actual brokerage goes, I definitely think we'll see kind of emerge really over the next 5, 10 years.
Now, let me ask you this: we'll get into load partner right after this question because I have a lot of questions. At the current moment, like where do you see or what do you see in terms of um, some of those AI models that are out there? Right, we have Gemini with Google, ChatGPT 3.5 and 4.0. Well, kind of where do you see some of these models? How do you see them in terms of brokers utilizing them for some of their whether it be sales or just any of their day-to-day management, but also how can people utilize some of these tools that just want to start like, hey, I've heard about AI and I want to start like breaking into some AI for the brokerage so that I don't, lose my job or things like that in the future.
Yeah, so there's all kinds. I mean, there's so much we could cover on this
Yeah.
topic, honestly. Keeping it at high level, if you're just like a broker somewhere at a brokerage and you're like, I want to start using this, obviously, using things like ChatGPT and just their chat interface, you can help clean up some emails. I would maybe not recommend like having it generate your entire sales pitch, but getting feedback on stuff you write and like polish things like that is a great way to use it. It's really good at kind of being sort of the rubber duck, if you've heard that expression. A lot of programmers use where they
Yeah.
have a rubber duck and they just like explain what they're doing to it so that they can like talk out loud. Using ChatGPT as that is really good.
Mm,
Getting that feedback. Um, I would say that's a great starting place. When it comes to like a brokerage and really like getting more enterprise AI to like help manage loads and things like that. I think what we're going to see long term is a lot of these large models are going to be great for off the shelf stuff like just asking it a question like a Google, right, where you just ask, I need an answer to a question or I need a thought, whatever. But when it comes to like enterprise usage, I think we're going to see more and more of these like smaller models like Mistral, if you've heard of that, and some of the models
yeah.
they've come out with like Llama or Meta. where those are fine tuned to, your domain of freight based AIs. And those are going to really be the future. And even on top of that, I think we'll end up seeing smaller models. You mentioned Gemini from Google, but they also have the Gemma one they released recently, where it's a lot smaller. So it's, you can train it really quickly. It's really fast. And it can run on like your local hardware. We'll see more of like those popping up to be used in more specific instances, I think.
I think that you touched on an interesting point. And I think that that's interesting. Now, with those smaller models, do you think that companies, freight tech companies, and even like brokerages themselves will say, hey, instead of us spending a lot of money with AI partners or AI companies, why don't we build our own AI? Kind of like, a lot of these traditional brokerages have built their own software, their own TMSs, their own portals, tracking software, this and that. Do you think that that's something some of these companies, some of these bigger brokerages are going to take a look at? Or do you think they're just going to, really kind of dive into some of these models that are out there on the market currently?
I think right now they're going to mostly dive into models that are already on the market. The biggest barrier to entry is really in like, how do you train those models? And it's something that's not very straightforward. It's not easy to do, and it's expensive, and your results may vary. I think once training smaller models becomes more and more mainstream and it's really accessible and you can just have your team do that and it's easy, then I think everyone will shift to doing that instead. Because having multiple models that are experts in their areas, just like an employee is an expert of, you have an account, somebody works in accounting, you would have your model trained on doing stuff in accounting, and having multiple models based on your domain is ultimately where we're going to end up, I think. But again, the hurdle is it should be easy to tune so that companies can approach it. And right now it's just not. So.
No, I completely agree. And I think that as, the technology grows and kind of as the space continuously grows, maybe in 10 or 15 years, we will see that. We will see the companies say, hey, we want to be able to be more in control of the data and how we train our models and things like that. And we just want to build everything in house. Kind of, we've seen a lot of brokerages just go down that route no matter what. So I think we'll see that in the long term, but I agree. I think the short term, they're going to go with kind of the out of the box options that we've kind of, you've kind of touched on a couple of times, Garrett. Let's dive right into it. What the heck is LoadPartner? I've seen it all over the internet, especially on X, on Freight X. So what the heck is it? What are you guys doing? What are you guys building? Let's dive right into it.
Yeah. So, high level LoadPartner is basically just like a 24/7 AI load coordinator. So the purpose of LoadPartner is to help you manage loads that are on the road. So think of things you would talk to your load coordinator for, or like a night dispatch team would handle, check calls, getting ETAs, checking reefer temps. Basically, LoadPartner exists to make those calls, give you updates. It can do SMS, email. It can make phone calls for you. It's just basically meant to be an assistant to help you run loads easier. At the bottom of it, basically, we have built a freight focused like platform. So we have like this set of tools for like live location links, and sending text messages, the typical stuff you would see with kind of TMSy. And then we basically applied like AI on top of that so that it can actually use those tools to help you. And so basically the idea is, with LoadPartner, if you have, if you're a broker and you've got 30 loads on the board and you're like, I got to check call these, if you're using LoadPartner, you can just have LoadPartner make those calls for you overnight, come in at 8 a.m. and just get a list of like, hey, here's what's going on with our loads. Here's the ones that need attention. And basically you didn't have to make the calls. You didn't have to wait for somebody else to do the calls. And then on the driver side of things, it really helps them because they basically have a 24/7 dispatch. So they can just call in, ask for information about the appointment, the timing, appointment reference numbers, whatever. It's just there for them. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I have a lot of questions. So how easy is this to like set up? Does it like integrate with your TMS? Like how does it get the information? Am I feeding it the information? I know those are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
You can take it any way you want to.
No, so there's a couple ways. So we actually have a UI on the web, so you can use it completely standalone and just import a CSV if you want, or even manually type in your load information. So you can use it completely through the web. But we also have an API if you want to integrate it. So one of the cool features we've got is essentially if you've got the AI is able to understand your API for a TMS, so it can actually like hit your API and make changes directly in your system internally.
Wow.
And because it's an AI, it's like ChatGPT and anything else you've used, there's basically just a general chat you can drop in. So, if you want to add AI to like your TMS, you complete your integration with LoadPartner. A broker can just pop the LoadPartner chat up on the side, and they've essentially got AI that will interact with your TMS directly. So, if you want to keep it simple, you can use it directly through the web. If you want to complete an integration, there's benefits that it'll update your TMS, and we've got an API to do that basically.
So you can long story, like you can basically, if I have a load, we'll say I've got load 1 2 3 4 5, it's a reefer load, strawberries, whatever, and it's picking up at 2 a.m. I can how do I set that up? Like how can I set that up to say, hey, I don't want to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning as a single broker that's at a small brokerage. We don't have an LC. I've got my own LC. How does that work? Or how can I set that up to say, hey, driver, has this load picked up, or what's going on, or something like that?
So yeah, if you've completed an integration to your TMS and the load information is already there, it's as simple as literally pulling up the chat and saying, please call driver on load 1 2 3 4 5 at 1 a.m. to make sure that he's on time, or at 2 a.m. make sure he's loaded, and the system will schedule a check call essentially. And at 2 a.m. the driver will get a phone call, which will ask, hey, are you loaded? And if he says yes or whatever, it will update that information directly into your TMS based on the call.
Now, kind of a quick question and aside. So, with a lot of the fraud that's going on, how does the voice sound? Is it like a robotic sounding, or does it say, hey, like, this is Garrett from, LoadPartner Brokerage, and we're checking on load 1 2 3 4 5? How can drivers kind of be assured that this isn't like a scam call, that, hey, if I type in this, they may have access to the details, or they may, like they're fishing for a load or something like that, in terms of kind of some of these high level scams that we've been seeing in terms of, double brokers and these cargo theft rings?
Yeah. So as part of using LoadPartner, we send a text that the driver essentially like opts into receiving phone calls and text messages. Just early on in the load, just so that they know. One of the big things with LoadPartner is we're never trying to pretend like we're not a robot. So we're very upfront with the call. It's like, hey, this is LoadPartner calling on load, blah, 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 like knows right away.
Yeah.
And so that phone number that you would get like the opt-in from is exactly the same phone number you would get like the check call from.
No, I think that's really interesting, and I think that that's a very good way to go about it. I mean, it really sounds like you guys are like taking away a lot of the annoyances of having to do that track and trace. Especially, I came from, my past was I was at a small startup brokerage in 2020 after being at TQL for a long time. And at TQL, I've got I have a night staff, I have night dispatch, I've got teams that can call, I can set up alerts to have teams call. So it was a very different environment to where I was moving a lot of produce, and I would have to I have to actually like get up and make this call at 2 o'clock in the morning, or head downstairs to my office and do this, as opposed to like, hey, I could have been sitting in my bed and say, hey, I could like manually do it, or I could set up an alert to do it, and then hey, just make sure, set up an alarm to make sure something happened, or have. So let me ask this: if something goes wrong on a load, can LoadPartner like reach out to me as an LC, like on that side?
Yep, absolutely. So the AI is built such that like if anything comes up, it will just escalate to you as like whoever owns the broker, the LC, whoever you want to be the point of contact. And that can be through your preferred method. So if you just want to call that, like it calls you to wake you up because you're sleeping and you've just got your text isn't going to wake you up, it'll call you if that's what you want. And say, hey, that something happened on this load. Here's what's going on. Please like check into it. And yeah, it will. So if on that like that loaded, right? If it calls the driver, says, hey, are you loaded? And he said, hey, no, there was an issue, like the product's damaged or something, couldn't load it, blah blah blah. The AI would then say, okay, let me escalate this to the broker and make that phone call to let you know.
No, I love that. And it's not just something that can obviously be used for brokerages. It can obviously be used for small carrier groups as well, to bigger carrier groups who just want to streamline their operations and don't want to have to deal with some of these check calls, or even some of their maybe calls back and forth to brokers as well, to be able to say, hey, this load has been loaded. They can send those quick messages as well. How has the reception been for what you guys are doing with some of the companies you guys are working with?
Yeah, they're really excited, especially, kind of like you mentioned of, the smaller brokerages where, you're just a broker, so you got to wake up at 2 a.m. to make that call. And there's a lot of the responses are, we just don't do it. And we know we should. And so they're excited about like the possibility of basically getting to do that without actually having to wake up. So it's been really
Yeah.
positive. And same with the driver side. There's a lot of things we have in mind in the future as well for, helping the drivers out. Besides them having just that 24/7 dispatch they can call for information if they need it. Um, you know,
Yeah.
Down the line, we have a lot of cool like driver features planned to, help with privacy, quiet hour kind of stuff so that, if you are running something from LoadPartner, you don't have to worry about, getting a phone call at 3 a.m. when you already updated that you were checked in at 2, right? So,
Yeah. No, I think that that's really awesome. I think that that's really going to be some good features that that I think are really needed, and I think that a lot of companies are looking to have like a service like what you guys are doing and providing. How has some of that driver reception been as well? I know that you got the driver side. Obviously, they're the biggest kind of the biggest stakeholder in the whole movement of freight. So how has the reception been for them? How have they liked the service in terms of like maybe not getting as many annoying broker calls?
yeah, definitely positive feedback. Especially, another thing that we really focus on is we don't have an app. It's all through SMS and like links to your phone.
Oh, cool.
So you don't have another app to install. It just you get a text message, you get a phone call. It's all, we're coming to the drivers where they are is what we've been saying. Which
I love
which
that.
yeah, they
Yeah.
love that. And yeah, and again, kind of like, that focus on you don't have an app tracking you 24/7. You'll just get a call, the link, whatever, that you can check in. Um, that's a huge plus to them because they hate getting like the call because they have the tracking app on their phone and they pull over to use the restroom and the broker calls says, "What are you doing? Like, why have you stopped?" Just completely skip that because Load Partner just knows, hey, you're on time based on the last paying. We're good.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really great way to go about it because that's definitely something I tried to focus on when I was a broker was not annoying the driver. I would be okay. I'm going to call you like maybe once or twice a day, and if you don't want me to call, like shoot me an email like when you start moving, or shoot me a text, or you call me when you start moving. I won't badger you if you look like you're running late. I might call and ask, but like I won't badger you because it's just like shit's not going to get done if you're just sitting there, constantly hammering the guy and he's, getting irritated and driving, and then he's cussing you up and down as he's driving. And yeah, a lot of things can go wrong. And I'd rather just a driver focus on what he's good at,
Yeah, absolutely.
driving and doing that aspect. It's not worth the headache of being calling him 15 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think that Gary, I think that what you're doing is really awesome. I got one more question for you, and I want to know like what you're really bullish about for the rest of 2024 in freight and freight tech. And if you can give us any like kind of insight as to like what Load Partner's working on for maybe quarter two, maybe we'll have you back and we'll talk about those as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I think over the next year, especially like AI stuff is going to continue to improve at a crazy rate as it has been. Just this last week we saw um, some of those the Google Gemma model running at like 500 tokens a second. We're sort of like crossing that threshold of where the AI can actually
Yeah,
generate thoughts like faster than you can think them, basically, which is crazy. And I think,
it's
yeah, and
wild.
it's going to open up all kinds of stuff, right? So, like, talking about like AI voice calls and some of these more real time interactions. Like, right now, we're kind of locked into being really transactional because it's like it needs a second to think
Yeah,
about it. Well, it's like, well, what about when it can actually like go do stuff and give you an answer back before you can even like think about what it might have done? It's going to open up a lot of new
right.
possibilities. So, I think, kind of crossing into that this year, we're going to see all kinds of cool new stuff popping up. So, I'm really excited for that, especially around like freight. Digital phone calls are an easy one, but a lot of stuff around like robotics and automations are also going to open up. So
Mm,
I'm excited to see what people are doing with that. As far as Load Partner specifically, I kind of mentioned we have potentially some carrier features later this year, and then we announced our AI voice stuff this last month in February. We're going to be releasing to early access
yeah.
users in March, so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. I think it's going to be a crazy year, so I'm excited.
No, we're really excited. We'll definitely have you back and talk about some more of what you guys are doing in the future after, come maybe at a quarter two, we'll kind of have you back and kind of touch on what's going on in freight and AI. One thing I want to touch on, I have one more quick question because we kind
Yeah.
of were talking about it. What is your thoughts about about Open AI's new Sora and kind of the video aspect of what they're doing? I think it like obviously there was like people pointed out like the flaws and stuff in it, but it was like from where AI videos come a year ago to today, it's like a night and day difference. What do you think?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think what it's the Will Smith spaghetti video is like the one people always reference from like a little over a year ago. It looks
Yeah.
horrible, and then like the new stuff is like insane. Yeah, I mean, I think that the rate of improvement is pretty staggering, honestly, and especially with some of the stuff like there's a company called Grok out there building chips that are actually meant for generating or processing like LLMs, essentially LPUs, what they've been calling them. And having that, it's like exponentially increasing the rate we can process that stuff is going to just further improve everything. And it's already so fast, it's like I can't even imagine. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and like the ways that we've been able to apply this new tech to like so many different mediums has been really interesting, I think. So again, I think robotics is an area where I'm going to be really interested to see how that, now that we get faster and faster to where it's like you can actually have like these real-time interactions, it's going to open up a lot of new things, and I think we're going to see some really cool stuff this year.
No, I completely agree, and I'm really excited for the next year of kind of development and growth in AI and what in automation, and kind of see what happens. Garrett, I really appreciate again, you coming on the show, taking time out of your day. If you guys are still listening this far, make sure you guys check out Garrett, check out LoadPartner. Links will be in the comments. Where can people find you guys at, Garrett?
Yeah, so our website, loadpartner.io, you can go on there. We have a wait list you can sign up for on there if you're interested in trying this out. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Garrett_makes. And you can also feel free to email me, Garrett@loadpartner.io. If you're interested in seeing how LoadPartner can help your workflows, or just want to talk AI, honestly, don't hesitate to reach out. Love talking about this stuff. So
awesome. If you guys like today's podcast, make sure you guys give it a like and review. Don't forget to check out our 3-time weekly newsletters, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, ThinkFreight.io. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.